Snap spiking in after-hours trading, soaring as much as 30% after smashing estimates in the fourth quarter. This was the company's first earnings victory since it went public almost a year ago, thanks to strength in advertising. Jay Jacobs, Director of Research and Vice President at Global X Funds, is here now. Global X's social media ETF has a stake in Snap totaling about 5% of the fund. Thanks, Jay, so much for joining us. Are you surprised?
I don't think I'm so surprised as just kind of excited for Snap that they were able to meet expectations of the market and finally start to exceed it.
You thought they had it in them?
I think they had it in them. They're an innovative company. I mean, you have to think of the social media industry as increasingly mature. It's really dominated by just a few players in the US and around the world. And to crack into that and to get into advertisers' budgets, you have to be innovative and you have to do things differently. That means risk, and that means not everyone's going to love that. But if you can successfully kind of execute on that, people are going to start, spending money in advertising and using your platform. That
said, Facebook and Instagram, the giants in the room, are copying them and sometimes doing it better. And they obviously have many more users.
That's obviously going to be a challenge for Snap going forward. And if you think about it from the advertiser's perspective, if you're a marketer for a company, which one are you going to choose? If you have a certain amount of time in your day to create content, to spend money on advertising, you're probably going to go with a place that's bigger, has more platforms all wrapped into one, and is kind of an easier hurdle.
Of course.
So it is a challenge for Snap going forward, but they are going to continue to innovate, and I think if they can keep bringing that attitude going forward and keep challenging Facebook, I think they have a chance.
So what's your hunch on whether they can keep it up? Because really, it's not just about one quarter; it's about several quarters, and this is the first time we've actually seen a strong quarter.
Well, what they've been able to effectively do is really capture that younger market, the under 24s that are using Snapchat, and that's a very powerful market going forward. The social media industry is really increasingly being driven by these mega trends, and one of them is the rising spending power of millennials. They're going to have 8 times the income that they had in 2016 and 2025.
We've
yes, of course. This is a thing that everyone is trying to get a hold of. Snapchat's one of the rare companies that really kind of has a grip on this cohort in a way that many other industries are struggling to figure out.
One of the more promising parts about Snap and its technology is the potential to integrate artificial intelligence and augmented reality. What are you expecting there?
So this is going to be a challenge for the entire social media industry, and I think what it's really going to favor is the people who have the most data. And if you look across the industry, there's huge players that have been aggregating data for years from more users.
Not Snap.
And so, not Snap. And so when you're thinking about artificial intelligence, you're only as good as the software you're programming and the data that you're applying it to. And so if you don't have the resources and you don't have the data set, that's going to be more challenging going forward as well. But if you look at the social media industry as a whole, this might be the industry that is most well suited to benefit from the rise of artificial intelligence because they have all that data.
Talent is also really critical in this industry, and Snap doesn't have the best track record with keeping its executives. Evan Spiegel, the CEO, has talked about how he understands that more people want to hear from him, including people inside the company. They want to hear what he has to say and what his vision is. How confident are you in the leadership of the company?
So it's a challenge, right? I mean, he's a founder CEO, and I think there's a lot of things that can be a benefit of that. You have the benefit of being a visionary. You can be looking very long term. Sometimes the market doesn't always appreciate that. They want to hit quarterly marks. So can he balance his long-term vision with people who can execute in the day-to-day? That's really going to be the challenge there.
What do you make of the Tencent relationship with Snapchat and how Snap might benefit from that, where maybe Facebook, doesn't have such a strong relationship with a big Chinese player?
Well, Tencent is enormous. I believe it's actually one of the biggest holdings in our fund, if not the biggest. And the reason for that is if you look internationally at kind of global social media companies, they tend to be more monopolistic. If you look at Russia, you look at China, you look at Japan, there's really kind of individual social media companies that completely dominate that market and are kind of a Facebook on steroids, if you will. And that's a very powerful position to be in. If you can partner with a company like that, you're getting, you can get access to data, you can get access to a huge consumer base. That can be very powerful.
Twitter also reporting later this week. I know you guys have a big stake. Anthony Noto, the CFO, recently left. How optimistic are you about Twitter? I mean, the numbers have been looking better, but again, we're talking about an industry that it is very saturated.
It is, I think people are going to be looking for engagement rates. How much are people using the platform? Obviously, what's happening around the world right now is bringing a lot of people to Twitter that probably weren't previously using it. But it's kind of in a different place as being kind of a second or third player in this market. There's questions about Twitter that aren't really applying to other companies, things like cost controls, things like profit margins, and that's going to be a bigger challenge for Twitter going forward. It's not just, people have almost kind of given up on user growth for them, so it's going to be other more traditional metrics that people are focusing on.
There's been a lot of chatter about a potential deal for Twitter. Of course, this has gone on for years, but more recently it's sort of picked up. Possibility of Salesforce, possibility of private equity. What are you hearing?
I don't have any unique information in that space. Like you said, people have been talking about it for years. I don't know. You can try to bet on it or not, but it's, I would say maybe 2 years ago, people thought it was a done deal, back with Google. So who knows? We'll wait until we see the news.